Hi guys, my name is Tharindu. You can find out more about me at about.me/Thar, right? I am a network administrator by profession, right? So once upon a time, I used to be a programmer. I started programming, I started coding when I was like 8 years old on an Amstrad 512K, and I was coding all the way up until I got into university and up to my second year of uni, and then I realized I don't want to be a programmer. No offense to you guys, right? Network guys just seem to have so much more fun, look at that. So when I was in college, part-time I used to work at the college network data center, and that's where I got most of my experience, especially on the topic that I'm going to be talking to you about. And now that I'm back in Sri Lanka, I am the chairman and founder of the IDawn group, which started off with the first subsidiary, IDawn Technologies, and we're mainly into IT infrastructure, so network cabling, equipment configuration, telephone systems, analog digital VoIP, CCTV surveillance, access control, electrical cabling, customized lighting solutions. We also just started doing web development and social media marketing for companies. So we're moving along, but that's one company. Then there is IDawn Racing that provides racing support services and track management services to the automobile racing clubs in this country. We debuted one of our first products a couple of weeks ago at the Colombo drag races, which is the starting light system. We will be doing the track management and the starting lights for the Colombo night races that are coming up. And we're looking at developing quite a few new products for racing clubs and for automotive enthusiasts. Then there's IDawn International, that is the trading arm of the company, and too far. IDawn Developments, which is my new baby, where we're looking at building some proprietary electronics we're looking at patenting it, and we're looking at using it in quite a few different ways, for which we might use coding cloud for some of our communication requirements. But moving on to what I want to talk to you about, I wanted to talk to you about VPNs, right? Worked very hard to find that picture of Calvin being naughty. But VPNs, what are they? They are virtual private networks, right? And that's a very, very descriptive name, which is somewhat rare when it comes to computers and networking. Virtual private networks are basically a network within a network, a private network within a network. So to explain to you a little bit more about what they are and how they work, I'm going to use what we like to call the island analogy. Now, you think of your network, right? Your 2 computers or 3 computers at home, your 50 computers in the office, right? You think of them as little islands. Your local area networks are your little islands, right? And you want to send data between the 2, right? You're sending it through the internet. And you think of the internet as the ocean. And whenever you want to send data through, you put your data packet on a boat and you send the guy, right? But everyone knows where it is. The packet is out there in the open, right? Anyone can sniff it and read it. And anyone can intercept it, and anyone can spoof it, right? So for some people, that's just not an option. Banks, multinational companies, it's not an option to have your data, your corporate data, out there on the web for everyone to see. So they can get lease lines. Now, going back to the island analogy, a lease line is essentially like you building a bridge between one island and the other. And as you can imagine, building a bridge or buying a lease line is immensely expensive. So it puts it out of the reach of small and medium businesses and the individual who just wants to, have secure data access between 2 points, but don't want to pay an arm and a leg every month to achieve that. So that's where VPNs, virtual private networks, come into place. You can use your normal internet connection that you pay, maximum of 8,000 rupees a month for if you get a 2 MB connection, or 14,000 if you get a 4 MB one, I think, and set up a virtual tunnel between 2 points, point A and point B. In your island analogy, right, instead of sending your data on a boat, you are now sending it in a stealth submarine. No one knows what's inside. No one knows that it's even going, right? It's just a random data stream, and your data is completely secure. And it just goes from point A to point B. So when it comes to VPNs, there are quite a few types. You can, quite a few ways to use them, and quite a few types, right? There's remote access, which is basically you're at home, you want to log into your office computer, finish the work that you didn't get to do during the day, right? Back in the day, companies like IME back then used to have a room full of modems with about 30 telephone lines so that 30 people could dial in and work at once, right? That was back in the day before the internet. I'm talking about like when 32K modems were the thing. You got a 56K modem and you wondered why SLT only went up to 32K. Why did I spend all that money? But so it used to be done through dial-up, but now you basically get a working internet connection and you VPN in. And between your laptop or your desktop and your corporate LAN, it's a completely secure connection. Then there are site-to-site links, like that island analogy. You have office A, you have office B, and you want to send data between the two constantly, and you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for a lease line. Lease lines, before VPNs came into play and before the internet got so much bandwidth, lease lines were essentially like one copper cable from point A to point B. Of course, there were exchanges in the middle, there was bridging and all that stuff, but essentially speaking, it was a point-to-point link. But now what you do is you go on the internet, right? You have your IP addresses between point A and point B. You just create a tunnel between it. And any data that travels between those two, it seems like it's on a local network, but it's actually just traveling through the internet. Telecommunication service providers like Dialog, Suntel, everyone in the country, basically, has a thing called a MPLS VPN, which is multi-protocol label switching. And what they do is, now that everything is IP-based, instead of having one copper wire from one place to another place, they have their own private little data network. Not the internet, their own private little data network. And they make little tunnels for you from point A to point B. That is basically the replacement of lease lines now. Just because it's not feasible anymore to have, to dedicate a copper line per organization from place A to place B. But again, that's also pretty expensive. Another type of VPN is an identity protection VPN, which there are services online that you can use, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So very briefly, how they work, right? There are so many different types. There's layer 2 tunneling protocol, there's point-to-point tunneling protocol, there are different types of security. There's, like, I could talk for 2 hours about VPNs, but I'm sure none of you want to hear that. So just essentially how they work, just so that you have a rough idea, right, is they basically create a tunnel between point A and point B. And the way that they do that is by encapsulating your data packets. Anything that you send out over the internet is sent as a packet, right? So you send an email with 10 lines. As an example, you send an email with 10 lines. Each line could be in a different packet, and all 10 packets will go around the world and then be reassembled at their destination. What VPNs do is they wrap that packet in another packet, and that is called encapsulating it. Like I said, there are so many different standards of encapsulation depending on what kind of technology you use. There are all these different things. But to use another little analogy, I love using analogies. It's like the difference between sending information on a postcard and sending information in a letter, right? You send someone a postcard, whatever you write is right on that postcard. The mailman can see it, the guy who's sorting the mail can see it, your neighbor can reach into your mailbox and pull it out and read it, right? But whereas with a letter, it's in an envelope. Unless someone consciously makes an effort to rip it open and read your letter, right, it's safe. And that's why, that's the difference between sending data through a VPN and sending data just through the internet. Yeah, sure, you can remote desktop into your computer at home and work, or your computer at office and work, right? Or you can, do file sharing using FTP and all that stuff. But anyone who's got a packet sniffer running within, if they're targeting your IP, or even within your corporate LAN, if someone happens to be running a packet sniffer, they'll know, hey, Millie's remote desktop into his house right now. You can see that. Whereas with a VPN, all that data will be encapsulated, and all they'll see is a stream going from Millie's computer to his house, or Nazli's, whatever. So how, everything that I'm talking about, how it's practically applicable to you, right? Once again, there are 3 use case scenarios. One is remote access, which is you're at home and you want to work at the office, or you're at the office and you want to get something from your machine at home, right? It's very easily set up. Windows Server 2003, 2008 both come with it on board as a service. It's called routing and remote access. You just have to install it, you're good to go. If If you don't have an extra server 2003 or 2008 box lying around at your house, shame on you, first of all. Second of all, you can use just a normal computer and install something like OpenVPN or any other sort of open source VPN server, and you're good to go. If you, I think the newer versions of, there's a router firmware called DDWRT. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. The newer versions of DDWRT actually have a VPN server built in, which can authenticate with Radius and do all sorts of cool things. So your router can essentially just act as your VPN server. And also, there's only one port open to the world. So whether you have 3 computers with remote desktop on all of them, you don't have to open port 3389 on all 3 machines. You just have one VPN port open. And once you're VPN'd in, then you can access all those computers as if you were plugged into your local LAN. You can also do Windows file sharing. You can like //192 or whatever the computer name. That doesn't work over the internet unless you enable some, what's it called, file sharing tunneling or something like that. That doesn't work generally through routers, but that will also work. Not guaranteeing anything on the speeds, but it's usable. And also all your traffic is encrypted. So like I said, you could access the files from your home on your home machine using an FTP, but everyone will know that it's FTP traffic going across. Second one is, and also most importantly, it feels like your home. When you're connected into your VPN, like say you have a server that's 192.168.1.10, even if you're at office, when you ping 192.168.1.10, you will hit your server as if you're plugged into your local network. That is, for me at least, and for most of my customers that use these solutions, that is the most important thing. Name resolution works, like pinging, mapped shares, all of that just works transparently as soon as you're online. As soon as you're on the VPN, sorry. So the next thing is site-to-site links. One thing is you can get rid of your existing lease lines, which you're paying an arm and a leg for. You can essentially, like with a VPN through an internet connection, you don't get as much reliability as a lease line, as a traditional lease line, or even a MPLS VPN lease line. But with how much less you're paying, you can get 3 different internet connections and create redundancy, which, like I said, redundancy is very cheap when it comes to VPNs. You can have an internet connection from Dialog, internet connection from Suntel, internet connection from Telecom, and load balance all 3 of them and create VPNs using all 3 of them. So even if Telecom goes down or something else goes down, your VPN is still active. Whereas with the traditional old lease lines, you weren't able to afford 2 or 3 VPNs, or it's not feasible to buy 2 or 3 VPNs. It's fast to set up and it's very flexible. One of the services that my company offers is to set up, manage, and monitor VPN links for companies, where we look at doing fiber installations from point A to point B, but the price is just too prohibitive. Even if the price is not an issue, sometimes practically it's not feasible, like heavy machinery sites and things like that, where the cable is at risk of getting damaged. So there, you can even use it through a dongle. You get 2 dongles, you put it on a broadband router, and you can set up a VPN through that. So it's very fast, it's very flexible, and it's very cheap. Yep, and through all of that, identity protection. The most important one. I know a lot of people were tweeting at me and saying, how do I browse those blocked sites that TRC has blocked, right? Log into a VPN. Identity protection VPNs can basically hide your real location. Essentially what happens is, even if your laptop is in Sri Lanka and you're connected to a Sri Lankan service provider, when you're logged into a VPN, it appears as if you are at whatever point that VPN provider has a point of presence. And most identity protection VPN providers actually let you decide if you want to be in Brazil, UK, Singapore, or Australia. You guys sometimes might notice that I tweet from New York and Sri Lanka all of a sudden. That's just because I happen to be logged into my VPN, which I use for work purposes. Sometimes I really need to have an American IP address. And sometimes I watch too much Hulu. But there are some online providers, like I said. You guys can check it out. Strong VPN, they're really, really good. They have hundreds of servers in all sorts of different countries. So, for like, I know some of my customers are on Strong VPN as well on my recommendation, because they need to access services which are geographically locked down. So it's for a legitimate reason and legitimate and legal reason. So I just recommend Strong VPN to them, and they can pick whichever country they decide to be in. And with their services, it's very easy to switch between servers and countries. It's not instantaneous. It's not like point and click, but within like 5 minutes, you can be in a different country as far as your internet point of presence is concerned. And then there's privatetunnel.com, which I just found out about relatively recently. I've never used it, but they do offer it for free. So you guys should give it a whirl and tweet about how it works out. So enough with the talking. Oh, well, there is more talking in store for you guys, but let me show you a practical example of how this works. So this is me on my laptop at home earlier today, and you see my IP address there is, that's a Suntel IP address. So it says there, Suntel Limited, blah, blah, blah. Yes, everyone feel free, there's my IP address, go get them. I rebooted my route after this, so I got a different one now. So I'm going to put a ping to a server that I have at my office, which is 1.200, just random server, right? And it can't be found because I'm at home, right? So what I do is just go in, hop into my VPN. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of them set up. Just hop onto my office VPN and connect. This process takes about 30 seconds or so for the entire thing, from the time you decide you want to connect to logging in. And then voila, that server is now pinging. That means, like I said, it's like your home. It's like you're plugged into your local network at your home or office. You can configure it so that your internet traffic does not go out through that connection. Because a lot of issues that people like just randomly tell me is that, hey, I use a VPN to connect to my house, and as soon as I connect to it, my internet gets really slow. That's because you're using your gateway at your house as well, and if you just have normal internet connections, it's just not fast enough. So you'll see that my IP address, as far as the internet and the rest of the world is concerned, has remained the same. I'm tunneled into a different network, but my internet traffic is still going out through my internet connection, as it were. So then the next one, I can't demonstrate a site-to-site VPN for you, unfortunately, because it's not possible. But you'll notice now, as soon as I hop off this VPN, the ping is going to break. Okay, so now the next thing that I'm going to show you is the identity protection VPNs. And that you will actually, it's just a matter of picking the connection. I actually go through refresh this as well, just to let you guys know that these aren't camera tricks and I haven't done any video editing. It's a real live screencast. I hop into over here, which is one of my VPNs, which is actually provided by strongvpn.com. And as soon as I log into this, you'll notice that my IP address and everything changes. And as far as it's concerned, I am logically in New York. So all those sites that you can't access, like Hulu, Pandora, all of those then become available to you for $59 US per year. So it's not that bad of a deal. But yeah, so imagine what this would be like if I was doing it live. I actually know what's going to happen and how long it takes. So there you go, new IP address. It's pulling a 98.15 something. If you scroll down, see, it's actually telling me that I'm in the United States. It's giving me a different ISP name and so on. So that's basically what, it's as easy as clicking a button and clicking connect, and you're administratively in a different part of the world. So I'm basically done with my speech or my talk, exactly 20 minutes. Like I said, you can find out more about me and my company at aboutme.com/tar. My awesome About Me background that was made for me by my fiance. So just wanted to advertise her for that. Do you guys have any questions?
What's the best value for money VPN that I can use? And what should I have on my end? 1 MB line?
Well, okay, the thing is, as far as what you should have on your end, let me address that first of all. In Sri Lanka, 1 MB, 2 MB, 4 MB doesn't mean anything, right? My 1 MB connection gets 0.89 MB at the worst time, right? But I've seen 4 MB connections that only get 512, right? So ideally, you're like, when I'm streaming Hulu, I'm not gonna lie, it's not super fast and I can't watch it in HD, but I stream it at 288p, which is still decent enough. And it's a lot better than waiting for the torrent to download, right? At 288p, a Hulu stream uses about roughly around 600K for the downstream. So whatever ISP you have, I don't know, like it doesn't matter. As long as you have about 600K, you're okay for it. As far as value for money goes, I use 3 different VPNs, right? One of them is local, and 2 of them are based out of the US, and only one of them I pay for. The other one is on one of my servers. So I can only tell you about the one that I use. Like I said, it's $59 per year, and you can switch servers, I think, 25 times within the course of that year.
Follow-on question. Can I get an AWS instance, install some VPN software and use that?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the first part of the question.
Install some VPN
Right.
on an AWS server.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. As long as your server's point of presence is wherever is within the geographic region where the service is allowed, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, essentially what one of my VPNs is that I have 2 VMware servers, and one of them is just running XP with OpenVPN on it. Yeah.
Get a little bit more detail on site-to-site VPN, because I had trouble with connecting to Windows VPN on an office through our site, which was running on a Linux server. So I would like to get a little bit more detail on how you can figure that out.
Okay.
Go about it.
So there are basically there are different like I said, there are different VPN protocols that you can use and different technologies that you can use, right? Some work better with Windows, some work better with Linux, some work better with Macs, right? As far as your particular issue, I would suggest that you have an L2TP VPN instead of using a PPTP VPN, right? As far as like a specific case, I think we should talk later as far as what kind of setup you had and what you were trying to do. If you're trying to connect from a Linux machine to a Windows machine, it's generally not considered a site-to-site. Even though it's at 2 different sites, it's considered a remote access scenario. A site-to-site is actually using like a router to connect that entire network, like all the PCs on one network, to another site, to a main site. So, yeah. I'm sorry?
For site-to-site VPN,
Yeah.
which technology you prefer, OpenVPN or PPTP?
As a general rule of thumb, when it comes to site-to-site VPNs, I prefer to... OpenVPN also supports PPTP and L2TP. OpenVPN is just a server software.
Microsoft.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, I generally prefer Microsoft because it comes with the Active Directory integration and all of that, so it makes authentication a lot easier. You can have on the same server, you can set up site-to-site and remote access, and keep both sites secure. That's the most cost-effective one. If you realistically want to replace a leased line with using a site-to-site VPN, then I highly suggest you go for like some kind of hardware device, like a Cisco ASA firewall or something, two of them that can establish the connection between the two, instead of depending on software.
We consider about cost, we can go with the OpenVPN.
yeah, if you're worried about cost, you should definitely go for the open VPN. But see, that's the thing. If you don't have a site-to-site link, right, at the moment, and you want to create one, and you're very cost conscious, then for sure go for open VPN and put like a D-Link DIR 600 router which supports DDWRT, and you can create the site-to-site link between that. You know, that will cost you a total of 20,000 rupees. 6,500 for the router, and the rest for an old PC that you can put XP and run OpenVPN on, or Linux, or whatever you prefer. If you already have a site-to-site link like a lease line or something, and you want to break that down and you want to save that money and use a VPN solution, then in that case, you're already spending that 50,000 rupees a month now. So for you to, you know, looking forward in terms of investment, it's okay for you to spend 250,000 on a Cisco device when you'll recover that money within 5 months, you know. All right, guys, thank you so much for your attention. I hope my information was useful, and look forward to talking to you guys afterwards.